Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Retention Zone. I'm super happy to have with me a fellow Italian, Luigi Spagna, but who has spent a long career in direct-to-consumer marketing and retention especially. But I let Luigi tell his story better than I could do, for sure.
Thank you, Carlo. And hi, everyone. So, as Carlo said, I'm Luigi. I've spent basically my entire career in the retention zone. Let's call it that way. It did start. I mean, I'm gonna try and be quick on this because it's been a long time. I mean, it's been almost 20 years in the making. I started as an intern in lastminute.com. That was basically my job was to code HTML emails and then send them out to different segments, so flights and different hotels and stuff like that. And it was completely random. I'm saying this because I'm gonna spend a little more time on this because I think it's interesting. I came out of a master in marketing and I was looking for an internship, and this company, Pink, cool, came up, and I kind of fell in love with that. I love traveling. I like the environment. During the interview was very informal, and I had no idea what CRM was, retention, let alone any of that. And I started that, and I was mentored. I think I came in at the right time, in the right place with the right people, and they really explained to me what it is and what it means to take care of a consumer, of a customer, of someone who's like kind of using your website, let's say. And I liked it. I realized that I was good at it, and I enjoyed it, and I was working with people that were fun, and it was an ever-evolving environment, because back then, I'm talking about 2007, so all of this kind of segmentations and the kind of dynamic content was starting to get there. And because that was starting to get online, and the power of kind of insights and data was starting to be leveraged in this industry. So I really enjoyed it. And from then, I stayed there. I kept working in this industry, in this kind of area of marketing. So after last minute, I had a bit of a break. I went traveling for a bit, and then I moved to London, where I started working in gaming, specifically betting. I was first BetClick, then I moved to William Hill, and then Betson. And the thing with betting is that it's such a competitive industry, the regulation, all the laws around it, and the things that you can say, you can do. You got to be very careful, because we're talking about gambling at the end of the day. That every little inch counts. So I think that what I love the most, when I learned the most from that industry, aside from the fun, because it's a very fun industry and the people are amazing, but the fact that the level of insights that we had, I haven't found it, even in my experiences after that, to that extent. Really, you need to know everything about the consumer. You need to know what you can, what you cannot say. Like, really, we were living and breathing the data and the insights. So I think I learned quite a bit there. And then I decided to change my life a little bit. I left this career and I joined a small startup. Initially based in Ljubljana, but then we moved to San Francisco. And so I spent some time in Ljubljana, one of the best places I've been. And then we moved to San Francisco, which I don't need to say anything about that. I guess people know it very well. Basically, it was a subscription model. We were selling booze, craft spirits, actually, so very high quality spirits. And the idea was to create a community of kind of spirit lovers that kind of wanted to kind of learn more, understanding how to pair different cocktails, different spirits, and kind of discover type of spirits that you don't really find in your supermarket. So the retention side of that was very important, because you're talking about people that love your product, they know your product maybe even more than you do, because yes, I love spirits, but these people were like aficionados. That's how we're calling it. So again, the way you treat them and the way you talk to them and the way you present your product and everything else was very important. It had to be kind of edgy, top-notch, kind of all the time. It was great. And then being in a startup, as you know, Carlo, I mean, you end up doing everything. We were literally a startup. All what you can imagine of a startup in San Francisco, it was exactly that. We were living in the same place all together. We had a basement office. We were working all together there. So it was an amazing experience. I grew a lot personally and professionally. And then after that, decided to come back to Europe, and that's when I joined Deliveroo, which back then was a startup. We were like 25 people in a flat, and then very quickly it just escalated. It became what Deliveroo eventually ended up being. I think I changed 5 offices in the span of 2 years because we kept growing and growing and growing and growing. So there was no space, and yeah. And then after Deliveroo, that was enough for startup life. That's when I joined. Back then, it was Eurosport, which was part of Discovery, which then now, after a few years, became, after a merger, now is WBD. And basically, my job now, if we get to this data, we're gonna talk about it more. But my job now is basically I lead retention and engagement for HBO Max in both EMEA and APAC, and that's been my experience of my journey so far.
Quite a journey, and I'm happy that it's so, if you want, entrenched into direct-to-consumer marketing from the beginning and coming from different industries, different angles. And yes, we were talking before that you were in Chiswick the same time that I was visiting Ralph Rivera, Michael Lang there. So good times to be there. And we have a common friend in Andrea Fanfani that I will tag on this post.
To whom we say hi, and we tell you lower your voice in the office, we should say, because that's a story for another day.
So, and he used to work with me for a long time too. So I would say, let's give me a kind of your very quick vision of direct-to-consumer marketing, acquisition, retention. If you have to define it for someone that comes new in your team or in the how do you define that? What's your view on that, especially?
So I think that if I had to,
it's a tough question.
It's a very tough question. Very tough. You got me on the spot. But I would say, honestly, and this has been, we've been talking about this for a while now, also in my company, because as you know, things change, structure, organization, acquisition, retention, is it product, is it marketing, whatever. So things keep changing, which means, I'm taking the vision and what this means keeps evolving. Yeah. And I would say that where we are now and what I would tell someone that's joining now or is trying to find his way into this, I would say it's an engine that allows profitable growth. And when I talk about profitable growth, is because both retention, acquisition, and to some extent the product is like the goal is to grow your base, to grow your revenues, to grow your income. But to do that, there are levers, and it's kind of a blanket. You shouldn't pull it too much on one side because then it gets short on the other side. What I mean is acquisition. We can acquire loads of subscribers, cheap subscribers, people that come in and whatever, and then your retention is going to be bad. Or you can aim to have the best subscribers, which is a smaller percentage of those that you could go and fish for, but then your acquisition is not good. So how you find the balance and how you find good quality subs, or even those that are not that good of a quality, how you change their behavior, their lifetime value throughout retention activities, throughout the product experience. So it's a combination of all of this. That's what I'm saying is an engine that helps and supports profitable growth. That's the best way I can describe it now. But yeah, I hope it works.
No, absolutely. And one thing that, without going into the details of how you are organized now, but one thing that I've learned with my experience is very often there are different teams or department or whatever, or functions that need to work together. And one of the things that I've seen and I've implemented, even if it was very tough to convince people, is that you really need to put everybody together. So if it's only the marketing team that cares about it and the product team doesn't understand or doesn't want to care, and the technology is not there and the content people are doing something else, and I'm sure at WBD is not like that, but it doesn't work. There's no way it works if it's not. But I don't know in terms of either how you organize or how you see these different function working together in your experience.
I don't know if you followed the Oscar, but there was a movie called One Battle After Another, and that's exactly how we should describe this. So it is a constant, in a positive way, it's a constant fight. It's a constant try to balance things. And to your point, it doesn't work if all of these levers are not working together. I've been lucky enough to kind of always be working in companies and kind of teams that were really supporting each other. And the vision from the top was very much aligned. we have a big vision from the top in WBD. We were joking before about what David Zaslav, the CEO of the company, said, that churn is the thing that we need to address. Exactly. So
and the next morning,
when that comes from the CEO, then that means that everyone is very much aware that this is the main KPI that we want to address. And to address churn, as I was saying before, that's a combination of many things. It's not just retention. We, as a retention team, own the KPI. So we are the one that reports on the KPI, they explain what's happening, why that's happening. But eventually to impact this KPI, it's a combination of so many different things. And throughout my career, I've seen it working in different way, because you can do different organization, and it's going to work either way. I think that eventually to make it work, you need leaders and people that are good working together, whether someone reports to someone else, that doesn't really matter. But of course, I've seen it changing. And one of the trends now is that actual retention is becoming more and more a function of product rather than a function of marketing. And the reason why is because with all the conversation now that we are having about machine learning, the integration of AI, but even before that, like if you think about the user experience on the website or on the platform, on the whatever it is, has such a big impact on the retention rate of these subscribers or customers, however, whatever business you are in. That's why you need to partner up with the product team extensively. So right now, for example, my team is part of the product marketing team rather than, it's part of the product growth team rather than being marketing growth team. We moved a few months ago. And I think the value, I did see the value of being into a marketing organization, because we are more into the content, how you sell in the content, how you talk about it. But now that we made this switch, now we are into the product, and now we're more about the experience, how a subscriber, a customer comes in, what happens, what does he see, what do we recommend, how these recommendations are working in the background. So we are more into these work streams. I think we're very lucky because we've been for years and years into the marketing thing, and now we are there. So we bring the heritage of that and the knowledge, and we still have the bridge between the two teams. But now we have a bigger influence to what we want to develop and how we want to change Rails, customers, the subscription page, the profile page, how we want to do all of that, because we are into the product team. So we're part of those road mapping, prioritization, and so on. So I got lost a little bit. What was the question?
That's fine. No. It's absolutely no.
In a nutshell, I don't believe there's a perfect way to organize it between teams. It is a combination. The churn KPI, if you want to call it, it's a combination of so many different sub KPIs that are influenced by different teams. So you can play around with the pieces of the puzzle, but the thing is, you need to have a nice working puzzle. Otherwise, you're not going to manage to address all of those.
So my next, if you want, question area I want to address with you is, as you are in the product team, and that fits perfectly, you obviously have, I don't know how you call it internal, because I'm sure WBD is not a small player that uses an external tool, but let's call it a subscription management system overall, right?
Yeah.
So normally is the thing that we, as consumer, you don't care. You just want to have a frictionless, a very transparent relationship with the platform in terms of when you're paying, etc., or when you're subscription. You have more and more. I think the way you sell your product makes even the price in the packages more sophisticated. The fact that you went through one or two merges also bring maybe other ideas or things you have to put together. So basically, what you need from a subscription, how is, if you want to organize in your experience, the subscription system for WBD?
Okay, there's a long story.
Whatever you can share, obviously.
Of course. But the way this being organized is not the way it's organized now, and there's another way it's going to be organized, and what we work
absolutely
on kind of change that. Yeah. So it's an evolving piece because technology changes, the knowledge of subscriber change, what you have available to keep changing, and so you want to kind of keep evolving with that. But in general, this has always been a combination of insights, real-time insights from the consumer's behavior on the website, on the platform, what they're watching, how often, do they have profiles, so which devices they're watching on, what time of the day, what day of the week, all the behavior. So all of the holistic information about a subscriber needs to come in real-time live and being available to be picked up, create segments, and then shoot into where there is the multi-channel campaigns orchestration bit, which is we want to communicate you, send you an email, in-app messages, something pop up that you see there. Now, one of the new things that we're doing now is how does this influence also the website itself? We call it merchandising internally, which is not t-shirts and hats, but it's more
clear.
It's like what you see on the website. So you log into HBO Max. If I log in today and you log in today to your account, we're not going to see the same thing. All of that is informed by this, we call it CDP, if you want to call it, how this shoots all of this information. And then there are strategies and tactics that the different teams put together to kind of make your experience as smoothless as we possibly can do and support behaviors that we know are going to be healthy behavior for the subscriber to keep him engaged and retained for as long as possible. So eventually this is a holistic view of everything that is happening on the website, everything that just one more, everything that is happening in terms of consumers' behavior, every type of information that we're getting into in terms of the products, the content, what shows, what content are we ingesting, are we putting in, and you match these together, and then you kind of shoot out an experience that is a combination of this that is tailor-made for you. And that's the vision.
On top of that, there is also and I don't know how flexible that is. I imagine it's sophisticated. It's also the pricing of packages. So at some point, I don't know, at some point you introduce, which I was very happy, identities. At some point you introduce whatever you call it, channels. So the fact that you're on one platform, but you can, so these are, and the pricing of it, and I don't go there now. And also you're not obviously in one country. So let's the multi-region thing, let's talk about it later. But the fact that also pricing, how is it? I'm sure at the beginning it was very difficult to change those things. And now everybody has, hopefully, not everybody, the smart one have organized basically tools for the people at the business level to decide, okay, let's do a promotion. How flexible it is now, and how often is it changing?
It's a pretty flexible tooling system. Let's call it. Just like we have, if you want to run a promotion, now AI is helping a lot, and you can just kind of input AI, say, okay, I'm gonna run a promotion of X dollars discounts for this cohort, for this queue. So for example, we want to discount ad light for 2 months. What is that? What is the impact going to be? Because of course you can run a promotion, the impact, you can easily calculate the impact on acquisition, you're going to get more subscribers, but then what is the waterfall impact on churn, retention, revenues itself at the end of the year? What is the elasticity? What kind of delta should you consider when you change a price? And it's not just a promotion. It's also like, I can give you a simple example. Like HBO Max is live in many, many markets. And normally the standard...
I'm a customer.
Good. Please stay. But like the standard set up is that we have a ad supported tier and a standard, which is ad free, and then a premium. This is the basic pretty much everywhere. Of course, there are some nuances, but this is pretty much everywhere. Now you see subscribers, because you launch this, so you have an idea of how subscribers are going to behave, which tiers, which pricing they're going to go and get. But then the reality is that people change, the economic situation in a country change, in the world change, so things keep being very, very organic. And then you got to react to that. So you see where people are going, and then you might say, tomorrow we might say, maybe we made a mistake. The difference in pricing between this tier and this tier is too high or is too low. We need to change that. And when you go and change that, it's always coming from the business, but then it goes into the teams, and I'm part of this kind of org that does this. You go and run different scenarios. And to run different scenarios, that involves tools, that involves like how existing subscribers are going to behave, how your demand is going to change if you do that, what is going to be the behavior, and how is this going to impact also the long-term tenure of subscriber. Because now if we're talking about adding $1 more to subscription, how does that change the average lifetime value, the average tenure? So all of this is, we have tools that do the job for us. We didn't used to, back then.
I know exactly.
But I think that this is what really changed over time. Back then, I'm not talking about 20 years ago, like I'm talking about
4 years ago.
Exactly. There was a team of people that was their job, and they were great. I'm not saying they were getting it right 80% of the time or for 80% of the people. And that was great. Now, this new tooling, this new system, this new intelligence allows you to be great for 100% of that, which is not human. It's not possible. You cannot get it with experience, whatever. It's just not going to happen. And so that's where the benefit, that is the benefit that we're getting now from this.
And the, sorry if I call it the unsexy part of, the billing, the involuntary churn, the chargebacks, and all the platforms, because then you have Apple. So that's normally, I work with different providers, and that was the part that I understood that it was really where you can, sorry, I cannot use bad words, but screw up everything.
Yeah.
All that you've done, if you don't get it right, then you see the number at the end is 30% less of what you expected. So
exactly.
Sorry, my experience, but I'm sure you know more.
No, it's true. It's true. It is true. So what we call involuntary churn is a big part of what we look at on a daily basis. I'm lucky enough because in Europe specifically, involuntary churn is not that big.
Organically, you mean organic in general?
Yeah. By definition, of course, it varies by market, but overall, when we look at regions, when we look at that, when we compare to LATAM, for example, that's a very different story. So it is a problem. It is a KPI that we look after, but it's not taking so much of our time as it is for our friends in LATAM. But having said that, it is a big thing. The payment method that you accept, how you set up your retries after someone has failed to kind of pay your subscription, how often that every time you try again to get the money, there's a cost. So how many times you want to try again, how often you want to try again, all of that, same thing as I was saying before, used to be, should we do it every three days? Okay, let's do it. You look at the success rate, and then you say, okay, success rate, if we do it every 3 days is 60%, which covers the cost, that's fine.
Okay, so you
do kind of a matrix, whatever. Now, what you're doing now is AI is telling you, for Pierre, you do it after 3 days. For Carlo, you're going to do it after 24 hours. For this other cohort, you do it after 5 days, whatever. So there's no one size fits all.
You don't trust me, you're saying. You don't trust me. I need 24 hours.
I need to come to you faster. But yeah, so all of this, and all of this is, as you can easily imagine, again, involuntary churn used to be and still is one of my KPIs. And the way we were addressing it was, okay, as a team, let's try to do different scenarios. Let's work with the payment team. Let's work with... Now that we have all of this tooling, becomes that there's a function in product that does that specifically. They take care of testing different scenarios, working with us, with what we communicate, how we bring subscribers, what are the different cohort. So now it became, there's a team specifically dedicated to that they're using this, again, we call it machine learning, we can call it AI systems, however, to be able to optimize as much as possible. You're not going to zero involuntary churn, that's not possible, but the lowest you get, the better, because we're talking about losing subscribers that don't
want to leave. Exactly.
So it's extremely important.
And so one thing that in terms of payment system, how and again, I think your question will be, and then we'll go to multi-region. How is important to be like, allow everybody to pay whatever the way they want? Is there a threshold, or are you just trying to go everywhere? Obviously.
Of course, there's a threshold. You cannot get all payment system because there's a cost. Also in terms of time
integration,
to implement integrations and whatever.
Yeah.
But of course, you need to get to be as say ramified as possible in every market.
Yeah.
And as you were saying, we are in, I mean, just only in Europe, we are in more than 40 different markets. Most of them, they have their own. That's the big ones, the one that you can easily
Pay.
But I think we have it in Italy, or we were about to launch it. I think I'm not sure.
Sorry,
but that's fine. But especially when you get to some very specific markets where they're a little bit different than the standard, how you want to call it. That's where you really need to go with the local providers and everything else. The problem is that we look at provider. Imagine you are a global entity with global knowledge, and now you're getting your feet into a very locally run operation, and you need to get this implementation. It's not very easy. That's why you cannot do it all, but you're gonna cover the main ones in each market, and it's a big part of what the product team is doing.
So it's a perfect time to go to multi-region. So what are obviously everything you've done now, I mean, at least in media, everything you've done have been multi-region or global from day one. But it's always global and multi-local. That's the thing. But what are the complexities, especially obviously in your area of going? What are the biggest the things that you are still unsolved? Because as you said, the things change. First we did it manually, then we did a bit of programming. Now we have AI. So there are new things, and we kind of productize it at best at some point. But what is still, difficult to do global, multi-local?
You still have. I mean, imagine I can go back to Deliveroo. I can give you a very simple example. The Deliveroo was selling food, was getting delivery. Okay, the way you consume, you eat what you eat in Portugal is very different from the way you eat whatever in Sweden. Okay. And now you have a team that needs to make sure that people order and that their experience is smooth. And there's a pan-European team. So you really need to get these nuances. Now we get to what I'm doing now, content. Again, I cannot think of anything more different and the biggest variety, because yes, we do have those big temples, which we call it temples, like a global title, House of the Dragon, White Lotus, whatever. You name it. Those are global and they are available everywhere at the same time. Fine. But the way people consume this is very different. It's very completely different. And the way you want to talk about it, how we want to, and also the type of people that are going to watch this show and which is eventually my KPI, what you're going to get them hooked up with next after that show. So that's what I'm saying. The way you consume House of the Dragon in Italy is very different than the way you consume in Vietnam. And the show that I'm going to recommend you after this is done is going to be different. So you need to have these local nuances. On top of that, HBO Max has a lot of local content that is available. Something is available here. Now we just launched Portobello in Italy, which is a big one, but it's not a big one in Germany, of course. So you need to have separate strategies. Then you have the local marketing teams. The local teams that are gonna always pushing for their own thing, their own unicity. They were, but we are different. But we need to do. And sometimes they are right most of the time, but you cannot kind of serve everyone the same way. So first of all, you start prioritizing markets. That is a thing, the most important thing. And then you need to have a team. And I'm lucky enough to have a very multicultural team. We spread across the world between Europe and APAC, where you have people from different places that know the market, they know what they're talking about, and they're very plugged in with the local teams. And that's where you have a pan-European, a global strategy, if you want to call it, which is led by machine learning, AI, whatever. But then you need to look at the nuances of each market. And that, so far, it's a manual intervention bit. We haven't found a way to kind of automate it and scale it up. We need to be present in the market and understanding what's happening there and why things are happening.
Because, one thing that is obvious to you, but I realize now, and I don't know why I never thought before, is the one thing that is not global, is unless someone wants to pay twice, is the subscribers. Every subscriber base is different. I'm not subscribing here and in another place. So these are maybe, and some content is, but that's the only thing that is really local by definition, because unless people want to pay twice, but I don't know.
And what they're paying is different. Of course, the price is not the same everywhere. It's not aligned. I mean, there are different type of pricing. The willingness to pay, the landmark in the market is different. I can tell you, Netflix is not number one everywhere. There are some markets where Netflix is not even number 3. And then, so your competitors are different, and what's in the market is different. So you really need to have a very kind of holistic view of everything.
So let's go to something that is close to my experience, and I don't want to say it my heart, but sport. You told me that you started so you enter media because of sport. How is it different?
it's a totally different product. And if you look at today, look at what's happening with sport, they haven't figured it out yet. No one really has, because it's a high cost piece of content, because to get sport right is extremely expensive, and to make them profitable is very complicated. So it used to be a little bit easier when it was pay TV. So people were paying loads of money to watch football or tennis, whatever it is. In the area of streaming, in this world of streaming, no one wants to pay 30, but in some cases there are, but it's more complicated, and it's easier to unsubscribe, it's easier to churn, you watch it, you consume it. It's a very different landscape now. And it's not, I don't think that anyone has kind of figured it out completely yet. There's still a very unprofitable product. But it drives engagement. It drives people to come in. It drives fandom, and you name it. So it's a great thing to have on your platform. So again, going back, when I joined this company, I joined to kind of run retention for euros per player specifically. So it was a sport-only platform. And that was different, because you have sport fans that come there, there's only sport, you know your events, you know the season, there's a cycling, there's tennis, there's snooker, there's darts, whatever it is, and they come there, they consume, that they love specific sport. There's not much crossing in between sport. Someone that loves tennis is not going to end up all of a sudden watching darts, and vice versa. And you had your cohort, you had your seasons, you could easily forecast and plan. Now, fast forward like 8 years, where sport is part of HBO Max, it's an add-on in most cases, so you need to pay to have it on top of your basic subscription. But now the behavior is different, because now you have high-quality entertainment content mixed with high-quality sport, and now how do you cross-sell entertainment to a sport viewers and vice versa? And that is something that's keeping us busy. I think that the model that we've landed now, which is basically having an add-on, is the best, is the most ideal scenario, because what we've seen was that when sport used to be a tier by itself, people would churn at the end of an event at a higher pace than what they're doing now, because now it's an add-on. You can just deactivate it and go back to your basic subscription and still have access to great entertainment content. So it's working a little bit better. But yeah,
and have you seen? Sorry, excuse me, Luigi.
No.
Have you seen pinnacle events of sport being able to retain customer for either still some sports or also the media side of it? Do you think, because this is we have the Olympics, and then we have 100 more subscribers, and we are able to retain 70, 30, 50 of those
because of that event.
They discover HBO Sport Max in the HBO Max.
Yes.
Sport, and then is it real, or what do you have to do to make it?
It is
what
real.
You have to do to make it significant.
I think that for us, the main challenge is being to do the exact opposite. So you get a bunch of new subs coming in for a sport event. Olympics, you just name it. We just came out of the winter, the Milano Cortina. So you got people that come in, and these people are coming in specifically for that event. Another big example is they'll sign up all of the Grand Slams of tennis. They last for a couple of weeks. People come in, they want to watch that Grand Slam, and they typically want to leave after that. What we have seen is, I come from Eurosport, then Discovery Plus, and now HBO Max. Since we are in HBO Max, the retention rate of those subscribers is way higher than what it used to be in Discovery Plus, which was still higher than what it used to be in Eurosport. The reason why is, if you get these subscribers to kind of have a high dual viewership while they're watching sport, dual viewership means they're watching sport and entertainment. That's the trick. Sounds very simple. It's not that simple. You need to work with your content scheduling team. So understanding when are we going to release specific shows, because these specific shows works very well with with people that will be fan of Winter Olympics. While these other specific show could work better with outside open viewers. Now, this happened to be at the same time, unfortunately. But I picked up an example, Roland Garros. So you want to release this in summer rather than release this in March. And that's how you work out with that. That's what I was saying, is a combination of different teams. Retention. You go to the content scheduling, content acquisition. You might tell, guys, we have a gap. There's nothing I don't know, for example, a sport documentary, which is still entertainment, but could be appealing for the sports subscriber. Let's go and acquire it. Let's see if there's something in the that we can acquire and put on the platform. So you work that way, and it works. I mean, as I was saying, if we pick a single event, Roland Garros, the retention rate post Roland Garros back in Eurosport was X, a Discovery Plus was Y, so it was a little bit higher, and HBO Max is Z, so it's way higher retention rate because of what else you have to offer to the subscribers.
Yeah. So let's focus on data. You touch a bit at the beginning the engagement, so but I'm sure you have like this. You call it the CDP. You have a huge amount of data, and in the past, I think I think the steps in data is you start collecting them. Then nobody's using them. Then you start extracting some insights, and nobody's doing nothing with the insights. Then you start doing some action. Sorry, I don't want to make the story, but I think you lived through it. Where are we now?
I think I'm lucky enough because, I mean, to me, data has always been the main part of what I do. So decisions that we take, they're all pretty much entirely based on the insights that we have. Across all of the different jobs that I had, maybe the only one that wasn't much was when I was working at Flavia in San Francisco. It was more about feeling than data. And it was a very small startup. It was a little bit, it was different. But as I was saying before, in the betting industry, data was the bread and butter of everything we're doing. If I get to where we are now, in my team, I have a vertical that is only looking at insights and providing insights to the team, to all levels. Insights to the team that is preparing campaigns to send to customers. So insights about cohort, what's the best piece of content, and blah, blah, blah. To the higher level, giving insight on the overall behavior of a base of a specific cohort, the pricing we want to change, we need to increase the price there or doing that, or we see different retention curve for different type of cohorts and different type of behaviors. So we want to create new strategies, new things. So honestly, to me at least, it starts and ends with the data. You cannot do your job without that. I couldn't do it. That's why we have a vertical of people. Maybe these are the people that I talk to the most on a daily basis. We have ongoing dashboard, and we keep creating more, because the more data you look at, the more you want to see, the more you want to break it down by different behaviors and things like that. So it is.
The route was, in at least what I've seen, is first we had report, then we had interactive dashboard. But now we have, on one end, if you want AI alert, recommendation, or AI chatbot, we can ask things without having a dashboard, a distractor, to then automatically taking action on the insights, which still to me is a bit scary.
It is scary.
Where do you see this last? Where do you see this last?
We're not there yet. They're not taking decisions for us. We see the one who takes the decision. But I can give you an example, something that we're working on now, to leverage AI when we run our campaigns, for example. And you still look at the data. You still look at, this is my KPI. How am I going to improve that? And then you break it down and you do analysis. You build kind of a framework. You say, okay, to get to this, I need to change. They need to impact this number. The events are going to impact that. So how do I do it? You define a strategy. Once you've defined the strategy, that's where AI can really become helpful. Because as I was saying before, you define you're going to define one strategy that goes for this cohort, one strategy for this one and for that. What AI can do is to take all of these insights that a marketeer or like whoever has done based on what he knows, and take it and kind of spit it out in thousands of different ways, or each one of them optimized to the best possible way to get them to the number. And then you go back to the numbers, you go back to the analysis and reports to see, is this actually working, where it's working, then you keep fine-tuning. So this is where it's getting. They haven't replaced us yet completely. The way I say and I speak to my team all the time, I don't think it's gonna entirely replace us. I think it's gonna allow us to do what we do in a better way that we couldn't possibly get otherwise.
Also for scale, because what you said is especially for scale.
Yeah, it's scale. Scale.
Personalization means scale, basically. Right.
Yeah.
So it was fascinating until now, and super entrench in reality, which I like a lot. So stop, breathe for a second, step back, forget for a moment the current specific situation and the budgets maybe. If you look ahead, if you also want to talk about something again that you can talk about, what is your ambition for the future? What do you think you would like to see happening from now on? Again, with less restraint than reality, if you want.
I think that in my world, of course, now I'm not about peace in the world or whatever.
No.
Fine.
Absolutely, yes.
I think that, and to be fair, is the direction that we're taking. But I just feel that it's such a complicated landscape that's going to take a while. But when we're going to get there, I'm going to be extremely happy. It's about how we can get spared of all the manual and heavy work that we're doing to take decisions that are to take this on a daily basis that don't really have a big impact, and get replaced by tools that can do that for us, so that we can focus on what really matters and what really has a bigger impact. We're building tools that can take all of the different information together lifetime and kind of really help also the conversation between teams, facilitate those to kind of, I'm doing this, what are you doing to mirror this on your channel, and this and this and that. So if you build a tool, at least a tool that kind of already optimizes that for you, you can spare all of these meetings, countless hours spent in meetings to align and then discuss where this is all done in a tool. And then people could have more time, first of all, to work a little bit less, which is not too bad. And then focusing on creativity, on real new ideas that cannot come from a computer, but like kind of things that could really change the paradigm of what you are doing.
Yeah, I think I can subscribe to that.
Okay, cool, good. That makes two of us.
Bene. Okay, so what can I say? Anything you want to add? Because I think it has been very good.
I think we're good. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for kind of also pushing me to talk about some topics. It's great. It's a good exercise. Thank you very much, Carlo.
Grazie per Luigi, grazie mille.
A voi, bye bye.